The space station called Crimson Nebula floated at the edge of known space. It was a place where dangerous people came to rest and drink. The main bar was called the Gravity Well, and it served drinks that could kill most living things. But the customers who came here were tough enough to handle it. Tonight, the station was full of excited talk. Someone important had arrived. His name was Vexthor, and everyone knew who he was. He was the best hunter in the entire galaxy. For 30 years, he had hunted the most dangerous creatures on hundreds of worlds. He had never failed to catch his prey. Vexthor was a Krillian, which meant he was almost 8 feet tall. He had 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush metal. His body was covered in a hard shell that had scars from many fights. On his belt, he wore small items taken from all the creatures he had killed. These were his trophies, proof of his skills. When Vexthor walked into the gravity well, everyone moved out of his way. Even the tough soldiers and mercenaries gave him space. They knew his reputation. He was not someone to anger or challenge. Behind the bar stood a human named Jake Morrison. He was of average height with brown hair. He looked ordinary, like someone you would not notice in a crowd. Jake had been working as a bartender on the station for 6 months. He had seen many tough customers come through, but he never seemed worried by any of them. Vexthor walked up to the bar. His feet made clicking sounds on the metal floor. The whole bar became quiet. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. The big alien looked down at Jake. His voice was deep and rough when he spoke through his translator device. "Bartender, give me your strongest drink. I want to celebrate my latest hunt." Jake nodded and reached for a bottle. The liquid inside could burn through most materials. "Sure thing. What were you hunting?" Vexthor's eyes seemed to shine with pride. "The Stormstalkers of Regulus Prime, beautiful creatures. I chased the leader for 4 days before I killed it." He pointed to a large crystal fang hanging from his belt. It was as long as a human arm. Other customers whispered to each other. Stormstalkers were almost impossible to track. They could sense danger from miles away. Killing one was extremely difficult. Jake placed the drink on the bar. "That sounds impressive. 15 credits, please." Vexthor grabbed the glass and drank it all at once. Most creatures would die instantly from that drink, but he barely seemed to notice it. "You humans are weak," he announced loudly so everyone could hear. "Your world is soft and easy. You have never faced real predators." Some people in the bar laughed. Humans were new to space travel. They had only learned to travel faster than light 20 years ago. Most aliens thought humans were soft because Earth was a pleasant world compared to other planets. Jake kept cleaning a glass. His face showed no emotion. "Is that right?" "It is a fact," Vexthor said. "I have studied your Earth. Your biggest predators are nothing. Your best hunters would be food on any real death world. You have no claws, no armor, no poison. You are just animals that learn to walk upright and use tools." "Well," Jake said calmly, "we do okay." Vexthor laughed. It was a harsh clicking sound. "Okay? Human, I could hunt every person from your planet in 1 year. You do not understand what real hunting means." The bar was completely silent now. Everyone watched the human bartender and the legendary hunter. A few smart customers looked nervous. Something about Jake's calm behavior made them uncomfortable. Jake put down his glass and leaned against the bar. "You know what? I will make you a bet." Vexthor tilted his head. "A bet?" "Yes, you say you are the greatest hunter in the galaxy. You say humans know nothing about hunting, so let us test it." Jake's smile was friendly, but his eyes looked different now. "We go to the old part of the station, the section nobody uses anymore. You hunt me for 1 hour. If you catch me, I will give you all my money and admit that humans are weak. If you do not catch me, you have to admit that maybe you do not know everything about hunting." The bar exploded with noise. Everyone started talking at once. A human was challenging a Krillian hunter? This was crazy. This was suicide. This was going to be fun to watch. Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly. This was how his species laughed. "You want to be my prey? You want to die?" "I want to settle an argument," Jake replied. "Unless you are scared." Those words changed everything. Vexthor stopped laughing. His forearms flexed. His eyes became narrow. Nobody questioned his courage, nobody. "Agreed," Vexthor growled. "I will enjoy adding a human skull to my collection. We start in 10 minutes. That gives you time to say goodbye to your life." Jake nodded and started taking off his work apron. "Sounds fair. Make sure you warm up. I would hate for you to hurt yourself." As the customers began making bets and setting up cameras to watch the hunt, two aliens sat at a corner table. One was a trader from the Zentari species. She spoke quietly to her friend. That human is either very brave or very stupid. Her friend was an old soldier from the Gorvax species. He was big and covered in scars. He shook his large head slowly. I have fought humans in war. They are not brave and they are not stupid. They are something else. What? The old soldier watched Jake walk calmly toward the exit. They are tricky. They make you think you understand them and then they surprise you. I would not bet against that human. His friend looked confused but said nothing more. Everyone else in the bar was excited. They were about to see the galaxy's greatest hunter chase down a human. They thought it would be over quickly. They had no idea what was really about to happen. They did not understand that Jake Morrison was not an ordinary bartender. They did not know about his past or his training. They did not know that humans had spent thousands of years learning to hunt the most dangerous prey in their world. Other humans. The hunt was about to begin, and it would teach everyone a lesson they would never forget. The old industrial section of Crimson Nebula was like a maze. It had long hallways that went in every direction. There were old factories that nobody used anymore. Some areas had no gravity because the systems were broken. The whole section was about 2 square kilometers of forgotten space. It was perfect for hunting. Jake stood at the starting point where 3 hallways met. He had changed out of his bartender clothes. Now he wore simple gray work clothes and boots. He carried nothing else. No weapons, no tools, no equipment. He just stood there with his hands in his pockets, looking relaxed. Vexthor arrived with many watchers. People from the bar looked through windows to see what would happen. Some had sent small flying cameras to record everything. Many bets had been made. Most people bet that Vexthor would win. The chances were 50-1 against Jake. The hunter looked impressive. He wore special armor that made him even stronger than normal. Each of his 4 arms held a different weapon. One had a net that shot plasma energy. Another had a gun that made loud sounds to confuse prey. The third held a rifle that could track movement. The fourth had a knife so sharp it could cut through almost anything. His helmet had screens that showed him many things. He could see heat, movement, electrical signals, and even smell from far away. You have made a big mistake, human, Vexthor said. His voice was confident. I have hunted for 30 years on 100 worlds. You have no weapons, no training, and no chance. This will not be a hunt. This will be an execution. Jake looked up at the tall alien and smiled. The clock starts when you say go. Vexthor's mandibles clicked. Go! Jake turned and ran into the left hallway. He moved fast, but not in panic. He ran like someone with a plan. Vexthor gave him 30 seconds as tradition required. In those 30 seconds, he turned on all his sensors. He sent out his tiny flying cameras. He planned how to catch the human. The human's heat signature was already fading around a corner. His heartbeat monitor showed the human's heart was beating fast but steady. His movement tracker showed footprints in the dust on the floor. This would be over in minutes. Vexthor rushed forward. He was very fast for someone so big. His forearms worked together perfectly. His sensors swept the area. His weapons were ready. He went around the corner where Jake had disappeared. He found a long hallway with doors on both sides. The heat trail went straight ahead, then turned right at a crossing 100 meters away. He followed quickly. His armored feet barely made noise even though he was heavy. This was what he loved. The chase, the excitement, the moment when he would catch his prey. Behind him, the small cameras followed, sending pictures back to the people watching. At the crossing, he stopped. The heat signature split into 2 paths. One went up through a shaft in the ceiling. Another continued down the hallway. A clever trick, but his sensors showed which path was newer. Up, Vexthor climbed the shaft easily. His forearms made climbing simple. He came out into a bigger room. It used to be a cargo area. There were boxes and containers stacked everywhere, creating many hiding places. His sound sensor made a small beep. Movement 30 meters ahead behind a stack of containers. He moved forward carefully now. His weapons were ready. The human was trying to hide. Foolish. His sensors could see through most walls. He went around the container and found nothing. Just a piece of warm metal spinning slowly. Jake had torn a strip from his clothes and wrapped it around a hot power cable, then thrown it to create a false heat signal. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Clever but pointless. He had other sensors. His electrical scanner showed a heartbeat 2 levels up. Moving through the old air system, the hunt continued. For the next 20 minutes, Vexthor chased the human through the maze, and with each minute something started to bother him. The human was good. Too good. Jake led him through areas with no gravity. Vexthor's heavy armor became a problem there. Jake doubled back through areas where Vexthor had already searched. This made the hunter have to check the same places twice. Jake used the environment well. At one point he made a stack of containers fall, blocking the path behind him. This forced Vexthor to find a different route, but the most disturbing thing was that the human seemed to know where Vexthor was all the time. When the hunter tried to set a trap, Jake avoided that area completely. When Vexthor tried to guess where Jake would go and cut him off, the human had already changed direction. It was like Jake could see through walls. 25 minutes into the hunt, Vexthor finally saw his prey. Jake was 3 levels above him. The human was visible through a metal grid floor. Jake was jogging at a steady pace. He looked up, saw Vexthor watching, and waved. Then he disappeared into a side passage. Vexthor snarled and moved faster. The human was mocking him. At 30 minutes, he finally understood what was happening. He had been studying how the human moved. He analyzed the routes Jake chose and the timing of each trick, and he realized something that made him feel cold inside his armor. The human was not running away. Jake was leading Vexthor somewhere. Every route, every turn, every clever distraction had been moving them both in a specific direction. They were going deeper into the industrial section. The human had been controlling the hunt from the start. Vexthor stopped. His weapons came up. He scanned in all directions. This changed everything. The prey was acting like a predator. His electrical scanner showed the heartbeat again. It was close now, just around the next corner. But this time Vexthor waited. "Come on," Jake's voice called out from ahead. "You are the greatest hunter in the galaxy, right? What are you waiting for?" Pride fought with caution inside Vexthor. He had not survived 30 years by being careless, but he had also not become legendary by being afraid. He moved forward slowly. All sensors were at maximum. All weapons were ready. He turned the corner and found Jake standing in the middle of a large room. It looked like an old reactor chamber. The human stood there calmly. His arms were crossed. He still had no weapons. 40 minutes left, Jake said in a normal voice. "You are running out of time." Vexthor aimed his rifle. "It is over, human. You have nowhere to run." "Who said anything about running?" Jake replied. That is when Vexthor noticed something was wrong. His sensors were acting crazy. Multiple heat signatures appeared everywhere. Dozens of them all around the room. His electrical scanner showed heartbeats in every direction. His motion tracker lit up like fireworks. "What is this?" Vexthor demanded. He spun around to cover all sides. Jake smiled. "That is what we call a trap." "You are not hunting me anymore, Vexthor. You have not been hunting me for the last 30 minutes. I have been hunting you." The cameras captured everything. Back in the gravity well bar, the crowd watched in shocked silence. Vexthor's sensors showed false information everywhere. The room Jake had led him to was full of tricks. Heat signatures came from pieces of warm machinery that Jake had placed carefully. Electrical interference from old power systems created fake heartbeats. Motion sensors kept triggering because of hanging debris that Jake had rigged to swing in the air currents. But the hunter was not panicked. He had faced worse situations before. He started filtering his sensor data, searching for the real target among all the fake ones. "You think simple tricks will save you?" Vexthor called out. His forearms moved in patterns covering all directions. "I have hunted in places where sensors do not work. I have tracked prey through electronic warfare. I do not need technology to find you, human." "Then why are you standing still?" Jake's voice echoed from multiple directions. The sound bounced off the metal walls. The human had positioned himself perfectly to create confusion about where he really was. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in irritation. The human was right. He was standing defensive, waiting. This was not how a hunter acted. This was how prey acted. He forced himself to move forward. He went toward the last place he heard Jake's voice. His traditional Krillian hunting senses took over. He stopped relying on sensors. He used his eyes, his sense of smell, his instincts. That is when he saw the scratch marks on the floor. They were recent. They formed a pattern leading away from the chamber toward another hallway. Too obvious or real? Vexthor followed them carefully. His weapon stayed ready. The marks led him to a narrow tunnel. It was barely big enough for his armored body. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But the tracks were fresh. The human had gone this way. He entered the tunnel. Halfway through, all the lights went out. Complete darkness. Vexthor immediately turned on his night vision. The tunnel appeared in green light. It was empty. He pushed forward and came out into another chamber. Jake stood right in front of him, less than 2 meters away. Vexthor fired his plasma net instantly. Pure reflex. The net spread out fast to catch and hold. It passed right through Jake's image and hit the wall. It was a hologram, a projection of light. "You are thinking like a hunter." Jake's real voice came from behind him. "That is your first mistake." Vexthor spun around. He fired his sonic weapon in a wide pattern. The blast could stun anything within 10 meters. The sound echoed through the empty chamber. Nothing. "Your second mistake," Jake continued. His voice now came from above, "is assuming that humans hunt the same way other species do." Vexthor looked up. Another hologram walked along a high walkway. "We did not evolve with claws," Jake said. The voice was coming from everywhere now. The human had set up sound relays throughout the area. "We did not evolve with armor or poison or natural weapons. Do you know what we evolved with, Vexthor?" The hunter was breathing heavily now. He kept spinning to cover all directions. This was impossible. He was the predator. He was always the predator. "We evolved with something much more dangerous," Jake continued. "We evolved with the ability to imagine how our prey thinks, to predict behavior, to set traps, to wait." A sound behind him. Vexthor fired his rifle. The bolt smashed into a stack of crates. They collapsed, showing nothing behind them. "Humans are not the strongest or the fastest," Jake said, "but we might be the most patient. We are the species that hunted mammoths not by being stronger, but by following them for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We hunted by understanding how animals behave, by being smarter." Vexthor's ammunition counter was dropping fast. He had already used 3 plasma nets, half his sonic charges, and many tracking bolts, all on false targets. The great hunters of Earth, Jake continued in a teaching voice, did not chase their prey. They learned where the prey would go, and they waited there. They understood that the hunter who chases is at the mercy of the hunted, but the hunter who anticipates controls the whole game. A flash of movement to the left. Vexthor spun and fired his last plasma net. It caught nothing but air. "And that is what I have been doing for the last 40 minutes, Jake said. "I have not been running from you. I have been walking you through a path I designed. Every hallway I led you down, I chose. Every room you entered, I prepared. Every false signal you are chasing, I created." Vexthor forced himself to stop and think. The human was right. He had been reacting, not hunting. He had let himself be led, but no more. He turned off all his sensors. They were useless now. They had been compromised. He relied only on his natural Krillian senses, developed through millions of years of evolution. His eyes could see in almost total darkness. His hearing could detect heartbeats from 30 meters away. His sense of smell could track chemicals through recycled air. There. A scent. Human sweat, adrenaline, the specific chemical signature of a human under stress, coming from the air shaft above. Moving silently now, Vexthor climbed toward the shaft. No weapons except his sharp blade. Sometimes the old ways were best. He reached the shaft and looked inside. Dark, narrow, perfect for a trap or an ambush. He heard breathing. Slow, controlled, but definitely human. 20 meters inside the shaft. Vexthor smiled. "Got you." He crawled into the shaft. His blade was ready. The breathing grew closer. 10 meters. 5 meters. He saw a shape ahead, human-sized, crouched in the darkness. He jumped forward with all 4 arms. His blade led the way and he grabbed a dummy. It was wrapped in Jake's torn clothes. Connected to it was a machine that made breathing sounds. "The third mistake," Jake's voice came from below, outside the shaft, "is assuming that just because you hear breathing, there is a person making that sound." Vexthor tried to turn around in the narrow shaft. His armor caught on the edges. He was stuck. "You have been a hunter your whole life," Jake said. His voice sounded genuinely respectful now. "You are good at it. Maybe the best in the galaxy at what you do. But you hunt animals, Vexthor. You hunt creatures that think like prey, that run when chased, that follow their instincts." The Krillian managed to pull himself backward. He came out of the shaft and dropped to the chamber floor. All his weapons were gone except his blade. Humans do not think like prey, Jake continued. We think like hunters hunting hunters. We are the species that looked at apex predators on our world and said, I am going to eat those. We hunted animals bigger, faster, and stronger than us. And we won by being more clever, more patient, and more willing to cheat. Vexthor's internal clock showed 10 minutes remaining. He had been reduced to one weapon. He was physically tired from the chase, and he still had not touched the human. I'm going to make you an offer, Jake said. You have 10 minutes left. You can keep trying to hunt me, or you can stop and think about what I have been teaching you for the last 50 minutes. Teaching? Vexthor growled. You presume to teach me? Yes, Jake replied simply. Because you are thinking of this as a hunt, but it is not. It is a lesson. I have been showing you how humans hunt humans. And trust me, that is much scarier than hunting any animal. The Krillian stood still. His chest moved up and down as he breathed hard. His mandibles clicked slowly. Every instinct told him to keep chasing, to use these last minutes to finally catch his prey. But another part of him, the part that had kept him alive for 30 years, understood that he was beaten, not because he lacked skill, not because he was not strong enough or did not have good weapons, but because he had entered a competition he did not fully understand. 5 minutes, Jake said. I am in this room with you, Vexthor. No tricks, no traps, no technology. If you can catch me in the next 5 minutes, you win. I will not even run. How about it? Vexthor's eyes swept the chamber. It was perhaps 20 meters across. There was old machinery and support beams everywhere. The human could be anywhere. He began to search. He looked methodically, carefully, behind each piece of equipment, under each console, inside each small space where someone could hide. The chamber was empty. 2 minutes, Jake's voice called out. Vexthor searched faster. He abandoned caution. The human had to be here. He had said he was here. 1 minute remained. The chamber was empty. Completely empty. Time is up, Jake said, and then he dropped from the ceiling. He had been there the entire time. He was pressed into a dark corner between two support beams. The space was barely a meter above where Vexthor had been standing. The Krillian had looked up several times, but the human had been perfectly still, perfectly silent. He was positioned in the one spot where shadows made him invisible. Jake landed lightly on his feet. He brushed dust off his clothes. You looked everywhere but straight up. Most species do not. You evolved from ground hunters. You look forward to the sides and down, but almost never directly up unless you have a reason to. Vexthor stared at the human. His weapons were lowered. The hour was over. The hunt was over. He had lost. Back in the gravity well, the crowd exploded with noise. Credits changed hands quickly as people paid their bets. The Zentari trader who had given 50-1 odds against Jake now found herself much poorer. The old Gorvax veteran collected his winnings with a knowing smile. In the industrial section, Vexthor and Jake faced each other in silence. The Krillian's mandibles clicked slowly. This was a sign of deep thought in his species. Finally, he spoke. How? Jake shrugged. Want to get a drink? I will explain everything. 20 minutes later, they sat in the gravity well. It was an odd pair. The towering Krillian hunter without his armor looked somehow smaller, despite being 8 feet tall. And Jake, back in his bartender's apron, poured drinks as if nothing unusual had happened. I do not understand, Vexthor said. He stared at the glass in front of him. I have hunted for 30 years. I have never failed. Never. I have killed prey that could tear through starship walls. I have tracked creatures through dimensions I cannot even see naturally. How did a simple human beat me? Jake finished serving another customer before answering. You did not lose because you are not a good hunter, Vexthor. You lost because you were hunting the wrong thing, and explain. Jake leaned on the bar. His expression was thoughtful. Every species you have ever hunted, what were they? Predators. Prey animals. Monsters. Each unique, each deadly in their own way. But they were animals, Jake said. They acted on instinct, on genetic programming. Even the smart ones followed patterns, right? Vexthor nodded slowly. Humans are different, Jake continued. We are persistence predators, yes, but that is not what makes us dangerous. What makes us dangerous is that we are social hunters who evolved to hunt other social hunters. For most of human history, our biggest threat was not animals. It was other humans. He poured himself a small glass of water and continued. We spent thousands of years developing strategies not to catch prey, but to outwit other people. Humans hunting humans. That is what war is. What competition is. What politics is. We evolved to predict what other intelligent beings would do and then counter it. The Krillian's eyes widened slightly. So when you said you were teaching me, I was showing you what it is like to hunt something that is trying to outsmart you specifically, Jake confirmed. Every animal you have hunted followed its nature. I followed yours. You expected me to run, so I led you on a chase. You expected me to hide, so I hid in plain sight. You expected me to fight your strength, so I targeted your assumptions. A Gorvax mercenary at a nearby table spoke up. The human is correct. I have fought humans in combat. They do not fight like other species. They adapt. They learn. They cheat, Jake grinned. We prefer to call it tactical flexibility. Vexthor was silent for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a clicking, rattling sound that filled the bar. I am humiliated. I, Vexthor, the relentless greatest hunter in the known galaxy, was played like a child stalking its first prey. Do not feel too bad, Jake said. You are not the first. Human history is full of stories where some expert underestimated us, and we made them pay for it. The bartender pulled out a small computer tablet. He began showing files. Look, here is the thing about Earth. You said we do not have real predators. You are right. Compared to most death worlds, Earth is a paradise. But we did not evolve to fear predators. We evolved to become them. He showed Vexthor pictures from Earth's history. Humans hunted huge animals to extinction with sharp rocks and planning. We domesticated wolves, turning predators into partners. We learned to track animals by studying broken plants and footprints. We invented ambush hunting, persistence hunting, trap building, and group tactics. And most importantly, we did all of this while being physically weaker than most of what we hunted. Your species weaponized weakness, Vexthor said. Understanding showed in his eyes. Exactly, Jake replied. We could not win by being stronger or faster, so we won by being smarter and more patient. Every human child grows up playing strategy games. They learn to anticipate what their opponent will do. They learn to bluff and trick. We call it playing. But it is really combat training for mental warfare. A Zentari at the bar spoke up. This explains much about human military tactics. They do not fight honorably. They use lies, misdirection, and psychological warfare. We fight to win, Jake corrected. Honor is great, but survival is better. And we learned that lesson over and over throughout our history. Vexthor finished his drink and set it down carefully. I came to this station believing humans were weak. I leave understanding that you are something far more dangerous. You are clever prey that became predators. We prefer adaptable, Jake said with a smile. But yes, that is basically it. The Krillian stood. His forearms flexed in what Jake had learned was a sign of respect. I owe you a debt, human Jake Morrison. You have taught me something I could not learn in 30 years of hunting. That true danger comes not from claws or strength, but from the mind. You do not owe me anything, Jake replied. Just remember this the next time you think about underestimating someone. I will carry this lesson forever, Vexthor promised. 3 days passed after the hunt. The Crimson Nebula was still full of talk about what happened. The video footage had spread throughout the sector. Everyone wanted to see the human who had beaten Vexthor. Jake found himself dealing with many kinds of attention. Some customers treated him with new respect. Others seemed nervous around him, as if he might trick them at any moment. A few aliens had even left the station, uncomfortable with the idea of a human who could outsmart the galaxy's greatest hunter. Jake was cleaning the bar during a quiet moment when a message arrived on his personal communicator. It was from Vexthor, Jake Morrison. I have been thinking much about our encounter. I wanted to inform you of something you may find interesting. I have been contacted by several hunting organizations and mercenary companies. They all want to know more about human hunting tactics. It seems your species has become a topic of great interest. I thought you should know, Jake sighed. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. Another message followed quickly. Also, I have been studying Earth's history. Your species' military tactics are fascinating. You have a concept called guerrilla warfare that I find particularly interesting. It is essentially what you did to me, but on a civilization scale. Remarkable and terrifying. The bartender could not help but smile. At least Vexthor was taking his defeat as a learning opportunity. That evening, as the bar filled with the usual crowd, a new face appeared. She was human, which was unusual on Crimson Nebula. She looked to be in her 30s with short dark hair. She had the kind of alert posture that Jake recognized immediately. Military or former military like himself, she sat at the bar and ordered whiskey with no ice. "You are Jake Morrison," she said. "It was not a question, that is me." "And you are?" "Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant, retired, Earth Alliance Navy." She showed him her identification. "I am here unofficially to talk to you about your little demonstration 3 days ago." Jake poured her drink. "Let me guess. Command is worried about me making Earth look too aggressive?" "On the contrary," Lisa replied with a slight smile. "They are fascinated. You have done more for humanity's reputation in 1 hour than our diplomatic corps has managed in 2 years. Everyone in the galaxy now knows that humans are not to be underestimated." "Not sure that is a good thing," Jake muttered. "It is a necessary thing," Lisa corrected. "We are new to galactic civilization. We are physically weaker than most species. We do not have natural weapons or armor. We are from what everyone considers a paradise world. Without something to make other species respect us, we are just prey waiting to be exploited." She took a sip of her whiskey. "What you did to Vex Thor showed every species watching that humans have our own strengths. You showed them that we think differently, fight differently, and win differently. That is valuable." "I was not trying to make a political statement," Jake said. "Guy was being rude. I shut him up." "And in doing so, you reminded the galaxy of something important," Lisa replied. "Humans did not get to the top of Earth's food chain by accident. We are apex predators who just happen to look harmless. That is actually more dangerous than looking threatening." An alarm sounded from the station's public address system. It was not an emergency alarm, but an attention signal. A voice followed, translated into many languages at once. "Attention all station residents and visitors. This is Station Administrator Krelix. We have received a distress signal from a transport ship in the Theta sector. The vessel has been boarded by pirates and is requesting assistance. Any ships capable of responding, please report to Docking Bay 4 for briefing." The bar immediately filled with activity. Several bounty hunters and mercenaries headed for the door. This was a chance for profit and glory. Jake noticed that Lisa had not moved. She was watching him. "What?" he asked. "You going to help?" She replied. "I am a bartender, not a soldier anymore." "You are a soldier who pours drinks," Lisa corrected. "And right now those civilians need someone who thinks like you do." Jake hesitated. He had left that life behind. He came to space to get away from combat, from planning, from the constant mental chess of warfare. But the look in Lisa's eyes reminded him of something he had tried to forget. Some skills were too useful to abandon completely. "Fine," he sighed, pulling off his apron. "But I am just consulting. I am too old to be running around playing hero." "You are 34, Lisa pointed out. "Like I said, too old." Docking Bay 4 was crowded with volunteers. Most were mercenaries and bounty hunters hoping for a reward. Station Administrator Krelix was a septarian with 6 arms. He was explaining the situation to the group. The transport ship Stellar Fortune was traveling from the mining colonies when it was intercepted by raiders. "We estimate 20 to 30 hostile individuals aboard. They have taken 47 civilians hostage and are demanding ransom. The transport security systems are locked down, giving us about 4 hours before they can break through and access the ship's systems." A Gorvax mercenary spoke up. "Standard raid scenario. We breach, we clear, we extract hostages. Easy. Except the raiders know we are coming," another voice added. It was Vex Thor, who had just entered the bay. "They will be prepared for an assault. Many hostages may die." The Krillian noticed Jake in the crowd. His mandibles clicked in what might have been satisfaction. "Ah, the human is here, good. We may need his particular skills." Krelix looked at Jake with multiple eyes. "You are the human who defeated Vex Thor. Do you have tactical suggestions?" Everyone turned to look at Jake. He suddenly felt very exposed. "Maybe," he said carefully. "But first I need to know more about the ship's layout and the raiders' positions." Krelix pulled up a holographic display of the transport ship. It was a standard civilian vessel with cargo holds, passenger quarters, and a command deck. The raiders had gathered all hostages in the main cargo hold. They had posted guards at key intersections. Jake studied the display. His military training automatically analyzed the situation. They are expecting a frontal assault. They have positioned themselves to control the main corridors. They have a clear field of fire at all entrances. To the cargo hold. So we find another entrance, a mercenary, suggested. Or we make them think we are doing a frontal assault while we come from another direction, Jake replied. The raiders are thinking like defenders. They have taken the strong positions. So we make them defend the wrong positions. Vexthor leaned forward. Explain. We send a small team to make noise at the primary docking port. Draw their attention, make them reinforce that position.
Meanwhile, a second team breaches from an unexpected angle.
The transport has maintenance airlocks for repairs, right? Access points that are not meant for boarding? Krelix checked the ship diagram. Yes, several. But they would be difficult to access during flight. Difficult, not impossible, Jake said. And the raiders will not be watching them because they do not expect anyone to use them. That is our advantage. Lisa spoke up from where she stood. It is a variation on feint tactics. Make the enemy commit to defending against one threat while the real threat comes from elsewhere. Classic human strategy, Vexthor said. There was respect in his voice now. You make the enemy defeat themselves by choosing the wrong response. Over the next hour, they worked out a plan. A team of 5 mercenaries, led by the old Gorvax veteran from the bar, would approach the primary docking port in a loud, obvious way. They would demand the raiders surrender and make threats. This would buy time and draw attention. Meanwhile, Jake, Vexthor, Lisa, and 2 other volunteers would use a small shuttle to approach the maintenance airlocks on the transport's underside. It would be dangerous and would require precise flying and timing, but it would put them inside the ship far from where the raiders expected anyone to come. Once inside, Jake explained, we move quickly and quietly to positions overlooking the cargo hold. We do not engage until we can get clean shots that will not hit hostages. The distraction team keeps the raiders focused on the primary docking port. When we are in position, they simulate a breach attempt. This draws more raiders away from the cargo hold. That is when we strike. And if something goes wrong, a mercenary asked. Jake shrugged. Then we adapt. That is what humans do best. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in a cramped maintenance shaft inside the transport ship. He moved as quietly as possible. Vexthor was ahead of him. The Krillian's 4 arms made him surprisingly good at moving in the confined space. Lisa was behind him, with 2 Zentari scouts bringing up the rear. They could hear the raiders above them. The pirates were shouting to each other as they responded to the distraction team's demands. The feint was working. Jake's communicator crackled softly. It was the Gorvax team leader. We are in position. Raiders have moved 6 guards to reinforce the docking port. We estimate 22 hostiles remaining in your area. Copy that, Jake whispered. Proceeding to observation point. They reached a maintenance access panel that looked down into the cargo hold. Carefully, Jake opened it just enough to see inside. The scene was tense. 47 civilians huddled in the center of the hold. 8 raiders guarded them. The raiders were a mix of species, all heavily armed, all looking nervous. They knew help was coming, and they were worried. More raiders were positioned at the hold's entrances with weapons ready. They expected an assault from the main corridors. They were not watching the ceiling. Jake counted positions and evaluated angles. He assessed threats. His military training took over, turning people into targets and the cargo hold into a battlefield. He did not like this part of himself, but he was good at it. Vexthor, he whispered. You take the 4 on the left. Lisa, the 3 by the hostages. Zentari, cover the entrances. I will take the 1 by the control panel. He is the leader. How do you know he is the leader? One of the Zentari asked. Because he is not watching the hostages or the doors. He is watching his people. That is what leaders do. They positioned themselves with weapons ready. Jake had borrowed a stun rifle from the station's armory. It was not his preferred weapon, but it was appropriate for a hostage situation. He activated his communicator. Distraction team, prepare to simulate breach in 30 seconds. Understood. 30 seconds, Jake counted down silently. He watched the raiders and waited for the perfect moment. 20 seconds. 15. 10 dow. A massive impact sound echoed through the ship as the distraction team set off explosive charges against the docking port door. It was purely for show. They were not actually breaching, but the raiders did not know that. Immediately, 6 more raiders rushed from the cargo hold toward the docking port. This left only 2 watching the hostages now, Jake whispered. They dropped from the ceiling as one unit. Jake's first shot took down the raider leader before he could shout a warning. Vexthor moved with stunning speed. His forearms wielded weapons in perfect coordination. The Krillian took down his targets in seconds. Lisa's shots were precise and professional. Each one dropped a raider without endangering the hostages. The two Zentari covered the entrances. They stunned raiders who tried to return to the hold. The entire fight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it was over, all raiders in the cargo hold were unconscious or restrained. The hostages were safe. Not a single civilian had been injured. The distraction team secured the rest of the ship. They rounded up the remaining raiders who surrendered quickly once they realized the cargo hold was already lost. Back on Crimson Nebula, Jake sat at his bar once again. He was drinking water and thinking. The rescue had been successful. The hostages were safe. The raiders were in custody. Station Administrator Krellix had personally thanked him. There was talk of some kind of award or commendation. Vexthor approached the bar with a tablet computer in one of his hands. "I have been writing something," the Krillian said. "I wanted to share it with you before I send it to the hunters' organizations." He showed Jake the tablet. It was a detailed analysis of human hunting tactics, written from Vexthor's perspective. It discussed not just their encounter, but everything the hunter had learned about human strategic thinking, social evolution, and tactical adaptation. "It is titled The Hunters Who Hunt Hunters, a Study of Human Predation," Vexthor explained. "I intend to distribute it throughout the galaxy. Other hunters should understand what they face if they underestimate humans." Jake read through it. He was surprised by how insightful it was. Vexthor had truly learned from their encounter. "It is good," Jake said honestly, "though you might want to mention that not all humans are like me. Most of us are pretty normal." "But you are normal for a human," Vexthor replied. "That is what makes your species so formidable. This level of tactical thinking is not exceptional among your people. It is baseline. Imagine what your elite warriors must be capable of." Lisa, who had stayed on the station, sat down at the bar. "He is not wrong. Earth Alliance Special Forces make you look like a beginner, Jake, no offense." "None taken. That is why I left," she smiled. "But you cannot quite leave it behind, can you? When there is a problem that needs solving, a puzzle that needs thinking through, you are right there." "It is a curse," Jake admitted. "Always seeing 3 steps ahead. Always planning. Always anticipating. Sometimes I just want to pour drinks and not think about tactics." "Perhaps," Vexthor said. "But the galaxy is better for having such minds active. Today your thinking saved 47 lives." As they talked, Jake noticed something. The bar had slowly filled with customers, but the atmosphere was different now. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as weak were now treating him with respect. Conversations included humans in discussions of tactics and strategy. The perception had shifted. One rescue operation, one embarrassed hunter, one demonstration of human thinking. And suddenly humans were seen differently. "We are going to have a problem," Jake said quietly to Lisa. "What kind of problem?" "Everyone is going to want to test themselves against humans now. Prove they are not like Vexthor. Prove that they will not underestimate us. It is going to get competitive." Lisa considered this, then smiled. "Good, let them come. They will learn the same lesson. Humanity is not top tier because of our strength or our technology. We are top tier because we think differently. And every time someone tries to prove otherwise, they will just reinforce that lesson." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. "She is correct. I was humiliated, yes, but I learned. Others will too. And perhaps that is the greatest service you have done for the galaxy, Jake Morrison. You have taught us to think more carefully about intelligence, about strategy, about the many forms that predation can take." As the evening continued and the bar filled with conversation and laughter, Jake realized something. He had come to space to escape his past and leave behind the soldier he had been. But maybe that was not possible. Maybe some skills were too fundamental to abandon. And maybe that was okay because the galaxy was big and full of challenges. And humans, with their particular way of thinking and their evolved ability to outmaneuver and outwit, might be exactly what it needed. Even if that thinking came from a bartender who just wanted a quiet life.